Okay, guys, welcome to week 3, and here we are going to talk about the questions regarding the GDP. So let's look at the first question. Consider the four component, expenditure component of the GDP. Explain what is being measured by the consumption C, investment I, government expenditure G, and the net export X. So how to uh, being measured to see. First one is the purchase of goods and services for the purpose of use or enjoyment by households. For example, the goods, the service, and how to define the investment. For the purchase of new physical assets for the purpose of for producing output in the future years. So that's the key difference between the consumption and the investment. And it includes inventories, financial assets, such as stocks or bonds, and not investment. They are simply transfer, exchange, and don't create output. So this is the point that you may misunderstand about the investment, and mostly done by firms, but also by households. Like for the households, it's like the new housing. Question 1 and also government expenditure about the purchase of newly produced goods and services by the government, but G excludes transfer payment because they do not present spending on goods and services. For example, the building roads, bridge, military spending. And net export means the export minus export. Export are goods and services produced in one country and purchased by the residents of other country. Imports are the goods and services bought in one country that produced in another. Question 2. So this is the article that the title is U.S. GDP revised lower for the first quarter on inventories. Explain how the inventory changed in order for the GDP to be revised to a low level. So if you don't have time, you don't need to write the article, and this is the answer. The U.S. economy grew a touch softer in the first quarter than originally reported, mainly because of a slower build-up in inventories. Gross domestic product was trimmed to an annual 2.2% pace from 2.3%. The big changes in the first quarter GDP took place on the business side. Fixed investment in things like equipment, structures, and software was raised higher, show a 6.5% increase instead of 4.36%. Yet stronger investment was offset by weaker inventory growth. The value of a newly added inventory was slashed to $20.2 billion from an original $33.1 billion. You don't need to read the article, you just need to take a look at the answer, okay? And question 2. The component of GDP we already know about consumption, investment, government expanding, and net export. And it's telling you that I equals to fixed investment plus the change in the private inventories. If the fixed investment increases, but inventory decreases, then it causes the investment decreases, which will cause GDP decreases. And question 3, suppose a simple economy produces only 4 goods, computers, beef, cars, and tires. Assume that all the tires were used in the production of for cars. Use the information in the following table to calculate the nominal GDP for 2018. So now we know the quantity and price for each goods, right? So here, how to calculate the nominal GDP? You just sum up all the values for each goods. For example, you sum up the value of computers, which is 100 times 50, beef 100 times 5, cars, so on, and then sum it up. You can get the nominal GDP here, which is 7,500. You can take a screenshot of it if you want to practice, and this is the answer. And question 4, it gives you a table about like many countries and the minimum days of vacation by law and the real GDP per capita. So question is, can we exclude that anything about the well-being of the average worker in the United States from this data? What measures besides vacation day and real capital GDP would you like to see in evaluating the well-being of the workers? So here, actually, this is kind of the open question, and here is just to give you the example of the answer that you can use. If per capita GDP is one of the measure of workers' well-being, it can be said that United workers' well-being at the highest. However, there are many other factors related to the workers' well-being. In particular, in this data, U.S. work has the highest income level but lowest leisure level. Thus, it's hard to conclude about the well-being level of U.S. worker. Nominal GDP is not an accurate measure of changes in total production from year to year. How this GDP measure altered so that it's more accurate measure of the total production. And so actually this is also an open question, and you can look at the answer. Real GDP measures the value of goods and services use constant prices. I think you can learn it from the lecture video, right? When the nominal GDP changes, it cannot distinguish whether this is due to the price change and output changes, but real GDP captures what would happen to the output if prices has stayed constant. So we rule out the effect of changes in prices. So here this is testing you how to understand the definitions of the real GDP and the nominal GDP and how to understand it. Okay, again, in the table, we have different years and we have the nominal GDP and the real GDP. According to that, I really need you to memorize this formula that the GDP deflator equals nominal GDP divided by real GDP times 100. So after knowing that formula, you can calculate what the GDP deflator correctly. And the base year you choose is because it's already give you the real, so you don't need to worry about the base year. And question 7. Prospector found the uncut diamond in the ground, and the prospector sells the uncut diamond to a cutter for $1,000. The cutter extracts the car and cuts the diamond and sell it a polisher for $2,500. After polishing the diamond, the polisher sells diamond to distributor like $3,000 and then to sell it to consumer to $5,000. And what is the increase in GDP? So GDP is not about intermediate goods. It's only about the final goods. So ignore all the rest part, only focus on the final, which is 5,000. And assuming there's no intermediate good beyond that described, what is the value added to each producer? So here you only need to calculate the difference, right? From cutter to polisher, the value added is 1,500. From polisher to distributor, the value added is 500, and so on. After adding up all value added, you can get the exact same answer with the previous one, which is also 5,000. So it tells you a story that calculating the final goods value and calculating all the added value would be the same. And question 8. So here I think Suppose in a given year, someone buys a Ford automobile for 30,000. That's the same year Ford purchased the car in Michigan using 10,000 in parts imported from Japan. However, the parts imported from Japan themselves contain 3,000 in components produced in the United States. This is complex, right? But how much does Europe GDP rise? Because intermediate goods are excluded. So here you only need to use the final goods $30,000 minus 10,000 because it is imported from Japan and add 3,000. So this is the final GDP. And then use the expenditure approach. What is the change for each component? You need to calculate what's C. C is just consumption for $30. And net export is 10,000. So NX is 10,000. And 3,000 is the component produced in the United States. This is export. So after using C, I, G, and NX, of course, you can use calculate what's the GDP. Then what is change in Japan's GDP? Again, use C, I, G, and NX. There's only two things for Japan's GDP. The export, right? Because here export is 10,000 for Japan, and the import is 3,000. So for Japan, the GDP is like 7,000. And so here again, you have the table. You need to calculate what the inflation rate as measured by CPI. So CPI definition is the price of the fixed basket of goods in current year divided by the price of the same basket in the base year. So according to this formula that you need to memorize, you can calculate the CPI for each year. And the inflation's formula is here. The numerator is the base year CPI, and the denominator is the base year's CPI, and the numerator is the difference between your interest year and the base year. Okay, and remember to times 100 to get the percentage level. Then again, I think after using this formula, you can answer A and B. Okay, so consider the economic of this area. There are 100,000 citizens, and some part are under age 16 in the military, and 60,000 are currently employed. Of the civilian population who are not employed, 10,000 was actively searched for the workers and for the work, and 5,000 had not searched in the past months. So here you need to answer what the size of the labor force. What's the labor force definition? Employed and unemployed. So what the unemployed did not work and actively search for the work. So the labor force is here, 7,000. Then what's the unemployment rate? Be careful about this because the numerator is the unemployed people and the denominator is the labor force. So someone who give up searching job, we do not count them. And also for the young people, we do not count. And here, does impartial has valid claim? Impartial does not believe that OK accurately import the unemployment rate. If so, calculate a more accurate unemployment rate. If impartial does not have valid claim, explain why. So because there are 5,000 have not searched in the past months, so would take job if offered one. This is called the discouraged workers. If we include the discouraged workers, then the unemployment changed to 20%. So be careful about the encouraged. And also, after more investigating, it found that there are 5,000 workers in OK that work 20 hours a week and would like to work 40 hours. What is the unemployment rate if you consider work that it takes job if over one the involuntary part-time worker? So actually here, this is a formula that is not very common, but you can memorize it. Now the numerator changed to the sum of unemployed people and half of the involuntary part-time workers. So here the unemployment rate changed to 70.86%. A wave of new technology caused 10,000 workers in OK to lose their job. What is the new unemployment rate? So here, the new unemployment rate, because the numerator changed to 20,000. So the new unemployment rate is 28.57%. So, and question 11 is also about the unemployment. And question 12 is actually the open question that you can find it by yourself. And here you can take a screenshot of it to see what's the official, what's the answer given by professor. Okay. And that's it for today.